evening, YouTube. You guys are now watching another segment of TheCaliEffect, King of Games, and today you guys are going to see another epic duel on my channel. Now, Xander is going to be piloting Spellbook Mythical Beast, a concept that we first thought of when the set was introduced. Actually, this video was actually made the day that the set came out, around that time, and it was a really good concept to mess with Mythical Beast. And if you guys would like to see a deck profile on this Mythical Beast deck, go ahead and give this video a like. We'll have that Mythical Beast deck for you guys in no time. I'm really hoping you guys are enjoying these live duels and deck profiles, as it seems that that's what the channel might be headed towards, just basically what you guys like. He's going to start off with the Magical City of Endymion, and let's highlight that card really quick. It's a really good card, being able to every time you activate a spell card, to place a spell counter on this card, and more importantly, it allows you to steamroll your opponent by continuously adding cards, and anytime you would need a card effect to use spell counters, you can use that card's spell counters on that card instead. The Spellbook engine complements the Endymion really well, because not only is it a huge draw engine, it provides a little bit of a defense, and it accumulates spell counters on all of your cards relatively quick. He's going to activate Spellbook of Knowledge. I think sending the little boy to the graveyard. Yeah, sending Spellbook Magician of Prophecies to the graveyard, and look at all the spell counters he is accumulating on Endymion just basically by playing Spellbooks. Now, here's where the Mythical Beast portion comes in. Mythical Beast Master Cerebus is going to activate its effect, and keep in mind, it is a spell card when activating in a pin scale, so you will get counters on them, but more importantly, it can destroy itself to add Mythical Beast King Jackal from the deck to the hand, and Jackal has an awesome effect as well. Jackal in the pin scale, if it's the only one in your pin scale, allowing you to spell summon a Mythical Beast monster to your side of the field. So Mythical Beast King Cerebus is going to be special summoned, and he has some awesome effects. Let's highlight this card really quick. Basically, every time a spell card is activated, this card gains 2 spell counters, but that's not where his best value comes from. You can remove 4 spell counters from this card to banish an opponent's monster, and Mythical Beast King Cerebus gains that monster original tag. Now, this card is a game winner, and I really love the Mythical Beast concept. Will it be one of my favorite decks? It's leaning towards one of my most favorite decks inside of the Pendulum Force set because of how versatile it is. I'm going to be playing Qliphort, and again, if you guys want to see that deck profile of Qliphort, go ahead and give it a like. I know I've been working on it, and this was the build that I essentially established when Qliphort first came out. It's basically Qliphort Otk. It's a really fun deck, and no, Qliphort isn't really Helmet anymore. I'm going to activate Monolith, and then go ahead and activate Qliphort Shell. I want to call it Qliphort Shell, even though that's not the name. I've been playing Qliphort for so long and I don't remember the name. I should probably be shamed, but that's not really the most important thing that's going to happen. I'm going to go ahead and Pendulum Summon Carrier and Cephalopod to my side of the field, and Xander's going to read both of them, and then Spellbook Fate the Qliphort Carrier. Now, that was huge, not only because the Spellbook engine did give Xander the ability to not only accumulate spell counters, but it acts as a sword of defense by being able to banish a monster on my side of the field, preventing me from going through with my OTK. I did have the Qliphort Disc in hand, so I would have just tributed both the Cephalopod and the Disc to special summon, or the Cephalopod and the Carrier to special summon Disc. Disc effect would have summoned 2 more monsters, would have been enough for 8,000 life points, but more importantly, Carrier would have been able to bounce his Mythical Beast Cerebus to his hand, and provided that he had no other answers, that would have straight out run me the game. That's how powerful Qliphorts are in their native form. So both of the monsters are going to be used to make Electromite, and Electromite is an extremely powerful card in this deck, mainly because it acts as another Qliphort Scout Searcher. And you guys are probably wondering, TheCaliEffect, why didn't you just search the Qliphort Scout with the Summoner's Art? And that's a really good question, because if I would have activated the Qliphort Scout in the Summoner's Art, you would have Spellbook Fated it, and I would have cried. That's literally it. I'm going to use the effect of Qliphort Scout to search Sacrifice from my deck to my hand, and this deck makes so many good sacrifices. I'm going to set 1 card face down and then pass my turn back to him, looking at a very menacing board right now, because even though he only has 2 cards, he has almost 6 cards in his hand. I believe 5 or 6 cards in his hand, so he necessarily didn't lose any advantage, and he's going to be able to add more spell counters to his cards, which is pivotal for the deck. He's going to summon Spellbook Magician of Prophecy, and that's probably going to add him a Spellbook card, which is going to be Fate. So we know that he already has these Spellbook secrets in his hand to continuously accumulate more counters. The secrets is going to be activated, adding more counters on Cerberus and Endymion. And if I remember correctly, we kind of lost track of the counters at one point in time because we kind of knew that the Spellbook, or I'm sorry, that spell counters were gained when I activated my pendulum scales, but we were just trying to make sure everything else was going so fluidly that we didn't keep total track. So if I remember correctly, the Mythical Beast Cerberus has like 12 spell counters on it, just going through the video. And then the Endymion probably has like a lot of counters on it as well. So this deck is really good. And again, being able to accumulate that many spell counters is freaking insane for the deck. So looking at what we can do to counter this, I'm not really seeing much for the Qliphort deck. He's going to activate another copy of Spellbook Knowledge, giving his cards more counters. I am running out of damn dice to give these cards, or to represent enough counters on these cards. And while he doesn't have enough monsters to attack for game just yet, Cerberus can inflict quite a bit of damage, being able to banish Electromite and gain Electromite's attack. So think of Cerberus plus Electromite, that's almost a game ender on his own. He's going to activate Mythical Beast Master Cerberus, I believe that's Master Cerberus, and he's going to use his effect to add Jackal King, or no, he's actually going to add another awesome Mythical Beast monster from his deck to his hand, and we're going to highlight this card a little later. I'm going to talk to you guys about him a little later because he is a very, very spicy card. He's going to activate the Garuda in the scale, and I think I actually have a response to this, and it's going to be a very crippling, yes it is, it's the Wavering Eyes. Now Wavering Eyes for 3 is pretty freaking powerful because I can get rid of my scales, I can get rid of his scale before he activates, and I can banish his really threatening monster, and I also get the chain Astrograph Sorcerer to search another monolith. He's going to chain his Astrograph Sorcerer, but the damage has already been done. He didn't search the Mythical Beast Jackal King, so he can't special summon his monster back to the side of the field, and that's going to be pretty problematic for him. I think the Wavering Eyes is what really put this game back into Qliphort's favor, and it still doesn't look terribly great right now because he still has 4 great cards in his hand. We know one of them is going to be Spellbook of Master, so watch out, Qliphort Scout, you're probably going to get hit. So looking at all of Xander's options, he's just going to go ahead and use the Astrograph Sorcerer to attack into the Electromite, inflicting some damage to me and getting rid of my Electromite off the board, so I can't just freely Pendulum Summon monsters to my side of the field. He's going to set a card face down and then pass his turn. That Spellbook Fate is going to be really pivotal to his strategy right now. Not only do I have to fight over an Astrograph Sorcerer, which has a respectable 2,500 attack, but I also need to provide a board around Fate. That's going to be the biggest problem. I think the best thing would have been to probably use Astrograph Sorcerer to attack into Astrograph Sorcerer, but no, I just got to go to hard-hitting route. I'm going to activate Laser Clip, this is Laser Clip, and then use his effect to give me an additional normal summon of Cephalopod to my side of the field. Xander is thinking about what he's going to do. Cephalopod doesn't really do anything drastic. I'm going to use it to attack. He's going to go ahead and chain Spellbook of the Master, banishing 3, and that is going to banish the Astrograph. So basically exactly what would have happened if I wouldn't have attacked with the, if I would have just went straight to battle phase and attacked. So I'm going to go ahead and activate Sacrifice, and then use my first normal summon to make the Electromite. As you guys can see, I've reached for the Electromite in my graveyard. At this current time, we only had 1 copy of Electromite to work with, but there would have been 2 Electromites in the extra deck, so we just kind of like, you know, put it there. That's going to trigger Sacrifice into the graveyard. That's going to give me Helix. Helix is going to be placed in the scale and then destroyed to add Scout. So this is a lot going on. And then Electromite is going to give you a draw. Scout back into the scale, or Scout to the scale, to pay 800 to add another scale, and I have not Pendulum Summoned just quite yet. So I might be on the roll. I might be able to make a comeback for this Qliphort deck. So I'm going to go ahead and Pendulum Summon for 2, possibly get ready to make the Cyber Dragon Infinity. So no, just 2 monsters, probably a Link play, and Garuda is going to be activated. No, this is where I want to highlight Garuda, and this game is over. Basically, this card gets rid of 3 spell counters to bounce all cards special summoned, and that would have ruined me. I knew he had game going into the next round, or I figured he had it, so I just scooped it up because that was way too rough for me to surmount. So going into game 2, Mythical Beast Spellbooks are really good, being able to gain ground on the opponent. Going first, it's a terror to deal with once you accumulate so many spell counters. So I'm going to go ahead and activate Summoner's Arc. That's going to add Scout. Scout's probably going to add another Qliphort monster, possibly even Sacrifice if I really need it. Thinking about my next play, Summoner's Art again is going to be activated to add the Monolith. So drawing double Summoner's Art isn't terrible. Seeing that Monolith is a really good card in the Qliphort strategy now. Activating Scout. And then I'm going to pay 800. You already know how it works. Pay 8. And there was actually a couple of throwaway videos that we did, mainly because the lighting was terrible. But I remember summoning a Qliphort Towers on him, and he outed it. And I was like, normally when you used to summon a Qliphort Towers, you were like, you can't lose, you know what I mean? Like, it's such a very powerful card. And all he did was summon the Cerebus and then pump it up with a Spellbook of Power, and then pumped it up again just because he could through the effects of Spellbook Master, and then out at Qliphort Towers. So I'm drawing a little bit of experience from that. Don't get me wrong, a Qliphort Towers is a really good card, but it's like, you got to be careful, because if he has the outs, which are very searchable in this deck, you just might not have that Qliphort Towers for long. So looking at what I can do, going first is a little different for the Qliphort strategy, mainly because it can OTK your opponent, so you don't mind going second. Going first, you want to build a board that could help you when you go into turn 2. So as you guys can see, I'm doing some pretty hard thought with this, scout search, mainly depending on what I have in my hand. Things can be done. So Scout is finally going to go ahead and search a Qliphort disc. So I might be going into the Cyber Dragon Infinity play, which will secure me, or hopefully secure me, some anti-meta-like presence. I'm going to activate Trampolix in the scale. Trampolix is really good. I'm going to go ahead and use, or did I even want to activate what's going on, TheCaliEffect? What you doing? I'm going to Pendulum Summon 3. And then I'm going to use that to bounce the Scout back. I'm going to use 2 monsters to go ahead and summon a Qliphort Genius, hopefully. Yes. And then I'm going to activate Scout again, pay 800. That's going to add the Sacrifice, I believe, from my deck to my hand. Sacrifice the Qliphort Monolith. And then tribute the Qliphort Monolith, because it's treated as 2 tributes for the Qliphort disc. This effect is going to activate 2 special summon 2 monoliths to my side of the field. And then I'm going to activate the Qliphort Genius to search a machine monster from my deck to my hand. So basically, your going first board can still be, oh, what you doing, TheCaliEffect? You can't add Sacrifice. What you doing? You cheating. You cheating. I don't know how much of the impact, or unless Genius actually does say Qliphort card, but I don't think it does. I'm going to go ahead and add Stealth. And then, I don't know how I added the second monster. I believe, oh, that's interesting how I added the second monster. Oh, maybe that was from the Sacrifice. So I'm going to go ahead and make Cyber Dragon Infinity with 2 Qliphort monsters in my hand, as well as Disc and Genius on the field. This deck is really good at making boards like that. He's going to go ahead and start off with Endymion, activate Cerebus in his Scale, then Cerebus' effect to destroy itself to add Jackal King. And I'm going to let all that go through, mainly because if I Cyber Dragon Infinity is Cerebus, I could probably in for some trouble. I'm not 100% sure. I know his cards are hard once per turn, so I want to stop the Jackal King. If he already had a Jackal King in his hand and I Cyber Dragon Infinity the Jackal King, or the Cerebus, and I would have been pretty much screwed. So he's going to activate Cerebus and then use its effect. I'm going to go ahead and negate it, and that's going to put him in a position, but no, he's summoning Astrograph Sorcerer, and because his monster was destroyed, and that's going to add another Jackal King to his hand, and now that's going to set him up for the next turn. Seeing that Jackal King is a hard once per turn, he won't be able to use it again, but still, nonetheless, it's really good to be able to have Jackal King, access 2 cards like Jackal King. Through the effects of Astrograph Sorcerer, he can blow away my Cyber Dragon Infinity, which will be a pretty big problem for me if he's able to beat over the Cyber Dragon Infinity before I can stop cards like a Spellbook of Fate. He's going to use Spellbook of Power on top of the Astrograph Sorcerer, so that's just more pluses for him, and then trigger the effects of Spellbook Power. Now, he has not used Spellbook of, or he's not normal summoned, my apologies, and that's the beauties of this deck. That's where the Spellbook engine comes in really well. He's going to go ahead and use Spellbook of Secrets to search the Little Boy. Or the Secrets is going to get a counter on Endymion in case he needs it. Little Boy's going to be summoned. That's going to add possibly either Masters or just go into a Spellbook Fate, or just Knowledge, depending on what he has in his hand. He's going to add Spellbook Knowledge. That draw 2 is just too strong. And he's going to go ahead and activate. Does he have Spellbook of the Master? Yes, it looks like he does have Spellbook of the Master in hand. And he's going to reveal Fate for it. That Endymion, I believe, should have 6 counters, but 5 is, I guess, is okay too. And that's going to add him Fate. Oh man, this might be it for Qliphort, because he is building a good board right now. So the 2-game scrape of Qliphort could happen against the lowly quote-unquote Spellbook Mythical Beast, a deck that nobody really thought could do anything. And yes, it's making some waves inside of this Spellbook engine. So he's going to set 2 cards face down and then pass his turn after breaking my board. Now he's going to go ahead and Fate the Qliphort Scout, and that's nasty. Now I have to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Without Qliphort Scout, and it's going to be pretty hard. Can I be able to break his board, you know, without Qliphort Scout, or possibly even do something? But fortunately for me, I actually had another high scale. If I did not have another high scale, this game would have been over. I drew that high scale. I remember that specifically, and that saved my life, being able to activate Cephalopod and then Pendulum Summon 2 cards. One of them going to be the Carrier. If I have Helix, I should Pendulum Summon Helix. That's going to go ahead and trigger the effect of Genius. And Genius is probably going to add Disc from my deck to my hand. And if I can resolve my Disc right now, it's going to be game. So that Qliphort OTK strategy is really damn good when you can OTK your opponent. Or, unfortunately, I don't have Helix in my field. But if his Spell or Trap card isn't anything of importance, then yes, it's still game. So I'm going to go ahead and tribute both Carriers for Disc, and then use Disc effect to special summon 2 monsters to Genius side of the field. And keep in mind, Genius's effect isn't once per turn, so I can gain another search as well as 5 monsters on the board. And that's pretty freaking nasty, but I'm pretty sure Qliphorts are going to force that game 3 with all of the monsters that they have on the field, unless Xander still plays Storming Mirror Force and everything. And I'm like, bruh, what you did to me there with that Ritual Beast game was nasty. Don't do it again. So no, we're going to finish the game off right there. It looks like Qliphort is going to force that game 3. Really awesome to showcase how Qliphorts work nowadays. It's not a helmet deck. It's an OTK strategy that if you leave it unchecked, it will punish you for it every single time, being able to OTK you. And then even if you don't leave it unchecked, the effects of Helix and Carrier could carry the deck to another win. Get it? You know, it could carry it on the heels. All right, I'll stop with the puns. I'll stick to the deck profiles. He's going to Terraforming for the Endymion and then set a monster in defense. So this might not be a great hand for the Spellbook Mythical Beast, setting a monster in defense position. Looking at my hand, I'm not sure if I have a good hand itself. Yes, activating 2 Disc in the scale and then having to Wavering Eyes them. That's not really a good hand in itself either. So Wavering Eyes the Disc is going to add me to Scout. Scout in the scale. What's going to happen next? After Scout activates in the scale, because I'm pretty sure that's how it's going to go, it's going to keep on getting counters for Endymion. So unless there's some type of counter to Endymion, or unless I can win right here, right now, Endymion's going to probably get him enough counters to be able to activate the Garuda from his hand to the side of the field to prevent me from doing stuff. So unless I can get rid of the Endymion before I Pendulum Summon, I run the risk of getting Garuda again, which is essentially losing every single one of my monsters. So Scout's effect is going to be activated, and again, a lot of thought is going to be put inside of this activation, because you have to take in mind that Garuda is a really strong card. I'm not 100% sure what that face down defense position monster is, though I could probably guess it is a Spellbook Spellbook Magician of Prophecy, because when it's flip face up, you can still gain the effects of adding a Spellbook spell card from your deck to your hand. Don't know why he would have said it though. So it doesn't make any sense for it to be anything or Spellbook Magician of Prophecy, because he could have got his Spellbook engine going. I'm going to activate Trampolinks in the scale, and then I'm just going to risk it for the biscuit. I'm going to go ahead and Pendulum Summon 2 cards. Does he have a response? No, I don't think he has a response. So Trampolinks is going to go ahead and add Scout back to my hand, and then Scout's going to activate itself again. I'm going to pay another 800, and it looks like I just might add Disc for my hand and go for gold. Will this OTK be brought back? Because Carrier will be able to bounce the monster to his side of from his field to his hand, And then Disc will be able to tribute both monsters to normal summon itself, special summoning 2 more monsters to my side of the field, which will be able to attack for game. That Qliphort Otk deck is really good, and that what it looks like is going to be happening. Summoning another Qliphort Disc using Carrier's effect, and then special summoning enough monsters to make 8,000 damage. That's not 8,000 damage, TheCaliEffect. That's not 8,000 damage. All right, make 8,000. There you go, 8,000 damage. Qliphort's win in game 3. Thank you guys so much for watching another segment of TheCaliEffect. Real big shout out to all of my Patreons, all of the guys that have been here, everybody that has bought, sold, and traded for me. There's been so many of you guys. I really appreciate every single one of you guys. Please like, comment, subscribe, but most of all, enjoy. I'll catch you guys on the next video. Let's get this deck profile. Like this video up.